Everyone wants to use AI to grow their X account, but 99% of creators do it wrong. So in this video, I'm gonna show you the right way to do it so you can grow your X account faster without destroying your reputation. So first things first, the best way to use AI is not to write your content for you. Now, I'm sure it will get to this point eventually, but for the majority of creators, they are not skilled enough to use AI to write their content. So it ends up causing more harm than good. So for this reason, you should completely remove that idea from your head and instead use AI to analyze your past content, find patterns, and then use that to inform your future content strategy. And this is because of something called outlier theory, which states that if a post performed well previously, it is likely to perform well again. Now, this doesn't mean that you should copy and paste all your best performing content over and over again, but what it does mean is that you can look at your past outliers and find patterns in the formats, the topics, the hooks, things like that, and then replicate them on future posts, and you can get the same results as the past outliers. So here's the best way to do that. First, you want to go to your X profile, and then you're going to go to settings, settings and privacy, your account, and then download an archive of your data. And it will ask you to type in your password here. So I will quickly do that. And then it will bring us here where you can download an archive of your data. And if you click download archive, it's going to take 24 hours for it to download. And then you will get a notification when it's ready. And then when it is ready, you will get a file like this. That's a zip file. You can open the file, scroll in, go to data, and then go down to the bottom. And you're looking for the file titled tweets.js. Then you're going to come over here to Claude and you're going to use the following prompt. This is my X post history. Create a table ranking my top 50 posts by likes. Also include the topic, format, and hook, share patterns among high performers, and make recommendations for what I should double down on to replicate the high performer's success. And if you would like a copy of this prompt, you can get access to that using the link to my community down below. You can find the prompt in there. And then there's also access to a network of over 1,500 creators, additional training to help you grow your X account, as well as opportunities to work with me. So if you're interested in that, once again, you can find a link down in the description. Now, ideally, you would want your post to be ranked by impressions, but as you see here, I tried doing that first, and Claude told me that the archive doesn't include impressions. And so I told it to use likes and retweets instead. So if you see here, as we scroll through the list of all my posts, it's got likes here and retweets here. I think likes alone is probably plenty. But yeah, you'll see this list here. And then if we scroll down, then it will show you the patterns that it found from your high performers. So these are pretty interesting. This first one here talks about how monetization and payout milestones are my most reliable topic. So basically on payout day, it's common for a lot of people to share a screenshot of their X payout. And I often do that. And those are often some of my best performing content. And what it says here, it says these are cheap to make and consistently land. Your audience has strong aspirational and proof of concept interest in, does this actually pay? So that's interesting. It also talks about how follower count milestones behave the same way. And I would assume it's a lot of the same reasons. And so seeing these patterns make me think, okay, I already kind of knew that based on my experience posting. And, I've noticed that these types of posts typically perform better, which is why I kept doing them. But the fact that it's called both of those two types out directly makes me think that maybe I should try and think of more ways to implement milestones and wins and content like that, because it pretty much always performs well. All right, then number 3 here is also super interesting. So It's somewhat related to these first two, but it's actually the losses or being transparent about failure that it's calling out here. So there's been a few times where I said I received nothing on payout day, or it's been over 4 months since my last payout. The key here is it says your audience trusts the account more when you share the losses and not just the wins. And that's something I can resonate with. Like, a lot of times on social media, there's just a lot of wins out there. And so it can make you feel like you're behind or like everyone's winning but you. So when you see some of the people who are experiencing failure or they mess up or stuff like that, it can help give personality to these creators that you're following. And it makes you think, oh, like this guy is a real person. He makes mistakes just like me, so I can keep going just like he does. So I think that's also interesting and kind of makes me think that maybe I should include more of that as well as the wins. Then if we continue here, this one, I love how honest Claude is here. It mentions that many of my best performing posts are about sports. And if you look here, they're right. There's a ton of them that talk about sports, but it specifically mentions that they're off niche. And so here it has nothing to do with your stated brand. There is a strong format working for a different audience than the one that you're trying to build. So basically what it's saying is, hey, you found a winning format, but the topic is not related to your niche. So I probably wouldn't waste your time posting that. And I appreciate the honesty here because I also kind of know that. I have not seen a lot of, return come from posting about sports, but sometimes I just do it anyways for fun. But I like the feedback that it gave here. And then jumping down here to number 7, just while we're on that topic, very similar. The other day I posted something about Messi during the World Cup and it got over 1 million views and like 40,000 likes. But I mean, I gained a decent number of followers from it, but aside from that, like my business was not impacted in any positive or negative way. So yeah, it's not a repeatable pattern. It's not something that I should try and tap more into. But then looking at these last 2 pieces of advice, it says short, punchy, low word count hooks beat long setups. Your best individual lines are almost all under 10 words. Longer explanatory openers show up mostly in the educational/strategy posts, which do fine, but rank lower than the short reaction posts. Then before I share my thoughts on that, this leads perfectly into number 6, which basically says that a lot of my core educational content tends to get less views because it's not as flashy and exciting as a short form post. But what I would say is that both are needed, because if you're trying to build authority and get people to pay you for your expertise, then yes, you want the short, punchy tweets that get a ton of engagement, give you exposure and followers and all that. And then the core, value content is still important because it's going to build trust with people who are likely to pay you. And so it's still worth doing that, even if it gets less reach. So anyways, that's some of the patterns that it noticed. And then if we look at the recommendations here, then a lot of it is kind of what I assumed based on reading the patterns, but talks about here, make the wins a recurring series, lean harder into vulnerable and failure posts, shorten your hooks, don't focus so much on sports content, and then don't chase the number 1 outlier. So that is all super helpful content that some of it I already knew, but like this little tidbit about the hooks, I did not know that my best individual hooks are almost all under 10 words. That's interesting to know, and it can inform my future strategy. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, wait a minute, I don't have an X account yet, or I just started. How am I supposed to look at my past engagement history and use that to inform my content if I've only made 2 or 3 posts? Well, what you can do instead is take a look at some of your competitors and use their posts. So if we come over here, an easy way to do that, If we'll just use my profile as an example, but you're not going to be able to download an archive of your competitors' posts, obviously. But if you come to their profile and you click on this little arrow here, this will have to be on web, by the way, then you can filter posts by most liked. So if we click view changes, then you see here's the messy post that got over 1 million impressions, 40K likes. Let's see if I can filter out replies here. Doesn't look like I can, because that's not super helpful if it includes the replies, but it's fine. But if we look here, then you can see a bunch of my best performing posts. You could then screenshot those posts. So like I could screenshot this one. We'll skip some of these replies. I could screenshot this one, this one, this one here. You get the idea. And then I could upload those screenshots into Claude and then just mention that instead of being my own posts, it's a competitor's posts, and I want to learn from and implement what's working for the competitor on my own account. And then that's a way that you can also use content that has performed well previously to inform your future strategy. So that is how you can use Claude to grow your X account faster without damaging your reputation. And if you want more help growing your X account faster, click the video on screen to watch a full tutorial that will show you how to go from complete beginner to growing your X account to 5,000 followers and beyond.